It's an incredible journey. I set out on the 14th of January from my home in the Gower. I live in Southgate, and I'm walking the coast of Great Britain and Ireland, raising money for Alzheimer's Research UK. My aim is to raise £100,000 for charity, and for the next 4 years to walk about 20,000 miles. I'm probably going to be the first lady who's ever done this continuously, and I'm delighted to be here today, 195 miles into my walk in Newgale. Started from home in Southgate, which is on the beautiful Gower coast, and I'm walking 15 miles a day with my rucksack and walking poles and my tent and everything I'm going to need for the next 4 years in the back of it. And I roughly work out about 15 miles along the coast before I put my tent up at the end of the day. And every 7 to 8 days I try and build in a rest day just to give my feet a little bit of recovery time, and then I start again and carry on walking. And so far I've walked from Southgate along the beautiful Gower coast down to Penclouth, to Lucca, Buryport, Llanelli, Ferryside, where I met the fantastic lifeboat who took me over the River Towie from Ferryside to Llanstefan to prevent me walking all the way up into Carmarthen, which was just so very kind of them. And then I camped up in the beach in Llanstefan, and the next day I walked around to St Clair's and Larne, and then into Tenby. And from Tenby I've been following the wonderful coastal path right the way through to here. Even in the weather yesterday, which was 75-mile-an-hour winds, I'm out every day walking, and it's a big task to do, so I can't really take too many days off. People ask me about my motivation for the charity, and it simply is the huge effect that Alzheimer's and cognitive impairment and dementia has had upon our family. My husband Mark lost both of his parents, Alma and Kingsley Faulkner, to illnesses relating to dementia. His mother, Alma, sadly passed away after a 6-month illness with vascular dementia, where she developed a series of TIA, which are bleeds on the brain basically, which takes you down plateaus of health and such like, and she passed away just like that. We never really got our heads around it, and then immediately that had happened. Her husband Kingsley, Mark's father, started to show signs of cognitive impairment, and he'd be ringing the house on 1 month 270 times, just simply asking what day it was, what was the day of the week, what his name was, where was he, and over the years the illness got progressively worse. Ultimately he had to go into a specialist care home to receive EMI care, and he passed away in 2016. And when he did, he didn't even know who his son was. He didn't know anybody. He could recall some hymns which were played to him, but other than that, he had no understanding of where he was. And it's such a terrible illness, impacting obviously on people who have the dreadful disease, but also those people who care for those with Alzheimer's and dementia-related illnesses. And it broke our hearts, and I just thought, well, let's do as much as I possibly can to raise as much money as I can for Alzheimer's Research UK. In terms of funding, they need everything that they can get, because there is going to be a breakthrough, and my little bit, £100,000, is a big step towards something positive happening in the future with a breakthrough in Alzheimer's. I have to say, we have been incredibly lucky with all of the help and resources that we've had in terms of care for both Alma and Kingsley. I mean, he's had nurses at every step of the way. He's had carers who are going in 3 or 4 times a day, and carers who generally care about the welfare of the people that they're looking after, making sure that they're all right. Obviously, all the fundamentals with feeding and cleaning and such like, and looking after where they're living, but also making sure that that they're communicating with a family who obviously entrusting their care with the carers to look after loved ones. When he was in Swansea, incredible care from the local authority, making sure he was in the right place, being looked after at the right time, and getting all the specialist treatment that he possibly could. It's been wonderful. It sounds dreadful that you're caring for somebody who's lost every single ability to look after himself, and it can be very demeaning for the person unless you make it so comforting and so special that he really doesn't understand that that's carrying on. And I just found that Mark's family and my own family loved Kingsley. We really cared for him. We just wanted everything that we could to be the best for him. It was very heartbreaking when he passed away. To lose such a fantastic man. It sort of he was there for his old age. He'd worked all his life to have his old age, and he was robbed of his old age by a dreadful disease, Alzheimer's, which we just need a cure for. And it's because of Kingsley and how he lived on his own, and when he was on his own, he wouldn't have had any understanding at all as to what was going on around him. I'm thinking, well, if he can cope with that and people can cope with that, then I can certainly cope with that. And as I said, for many days being on my own, at any time I can cope with that as I go along. I have the benefit, obviously, of friends and family who keep in contact with social media and such like and cheer you on. I've met so many friends along the route and people who are sending me messages because they've been touched by what I'm doing because of the effect it's had upon them as a family and with Alzheimer's, that they send you messages from complete strangers saying, come on, head up today, keep on going. And you know what, it really does keep you going. And just one little message out the blue and you think, no, somebody's been good enough this morning to send me a message to say, keep going, Karen. I know it's pouring with rain or it's snowing or it's really windy, but we're thinking about you, and we think about you every day that you walk around the UK until you get back home. And that is a wonderful message to send people when they're doing something like this to raise money and awareness for Alzheimer's, but also, to keep in contact with loved ones and friends that you meet. Fabulous. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Parkrun. Parkrun is a wonderful event. It's a free, timed 5k or 3.1 mile weekly event run at 9 o'clock every single Saturday all over the country, in fact now all over the world. Since it was set up many years ago up in London, there are thousands and thousands of people who now go out every Saturday morning to either walk, run or jog Parkrun. You don't have to be a top class runner, you don't have to be Mo Farah to run it, although he does run it. You can be like me, who's proudly called a cart horse, who's always at the back of the pack. Very happy to walk a bit, run a bit, maybe walk most of it, but it's a really social event. It gets you out into the community, engaged, meeting people. It does wonders actually for your mental health and how you feel about yourself, because it sort of empowers you to think, right, great, last week I could only walk 100 metres. This week I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk 110 metres, and maybe next week I'll walk a little bit further. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to get around. At the end of it, there's always a cup of tea, generally a piece of cake, always a fantastic support team of people that you get to know, and my closest friends are all those from Parkrun. I'm staying in a place in Littlehaven, which has very kindly been let out for me to walk this part of the coast, and I would not be there if it wasn't for Parkrun, because I would never have got to know the people I know. And it's a fantastic organisation, and if you don't know anything about Parkrun, just look it up and check it out. It's wonderful, you'll love it. Well, I'm following the Welsh Coastal Path. It's all very well saying, oh yep, you're walking along a path, but the path isn't always as a path that you would expect with tarmac on and such like. It's extremely up and down. I found myself in the bog and the marsh on more than one occasion so far. I was explaining earlier that I put my foot into the puddle of doom, as I call it, and it went right up to my thigh before I had sort of like pulled it out again. And that was just simply because of tides, not knowing the area, lots of heavy rainfall recently, and all I can say is local knowledge is the best. But I am following the coastal path essentially all the way round to Fishguard, and I'm then travelling over to Rosslare to walk around the whole of Ireland in a clockwise direction. My navigating skills will be put to the test there, because I've been using an Ordnance Survey app at the moment, and it's quite good with a Welsh coastal path, but when you get to Ireland, the Ordnance Survey doesn't cover the Republic of Ireland, and because of data usage, I'm using the map and walking 15 miles a day, and the best tool ever is keep the sea on your left hand side, and as long as it's on my left I can't go wrong. If it's on my right hand side it means I've gone in the wrong direction. So that's the plan for Ireland. When I set off on this walk, I planned meticulously, basically for camping every night, and I know it's the wrong time of year to set off in the middle of winter, but I seriously thought, well, I've eaten a lot over Christmas, I've got my kit all organised, I'm going to have to camp out at least 3 Christmases, so I may as well start now while I'm fit and well fed, basically. I mean, I'm going to try not to lose too much weight as I'm going along, because that is obviously something that will affect my ability to keep walking the 15 miles each day. And I find that I do have to keep eating regularly just to top up on my energy levels. So whether it's a snack bar or peanuts or something in my bag, I try and stop every hour and a half to keep eating. In terms of the tent, I've got a tiny little tent. I can just about sit up in it. I've got my season 3 sleeping bag, which hasn't been warm enough, but anything more than that is heavy to carry. So I've got some thermal layers that I put on in the evening, and it is difficult on occasions because it's been pouring with rain all day, and it doesn't matter what anybody says about waterproof clothing, nothing is totally waterproof. Water will always get in somewhere, and so I've been taking out my sort of sleeping bag in the evening, and it's been damp on the toes, but that's all right, because what you do is you just get in, and if you've got damp socks, keep them on. That's the tip I was told, because in the morning the body heat will have warmed them through and they'll be dry again, ready for you to set out again the next day. Since I've started this walk, absolutely astounded by the number of people who've been messaging me or getting hold of my husband who's looking after sort of logistics and such like, and saying, we can offer you a place, we can put you up in our garden. First of all, it's safe to camp there rather than you wild camp anywhere. You've got facilities you can use, or better still, why don't you come into the house, and we've got a spare room for you, we've got a little cottage, come and have a meal with us, we'd be delighted to see you. Tell us all about your story, what you've been doing, and people have been offering now even to come and pick me up off the path and drop me back there the next day, which is fantastic. It's not in my nature to ever ask for any help and such like. It's not the way I am, but I'll never turn an offer down either, because that is so wonderful to meet people, and what they're doing is they're helping me on my journey. It's not just people who are able to donate, it's people who are able to share the message of what I'm doing, help me en route to get round, because it is going to be a tricky 4 years, and I'm so overwhelmed by all the help I've been given so far. So thank you all very much. Before I set out, somebody said, you'll have to get yourself a handle. And I think, handle? What are they talking about, a handle? Like Twitter. Twitter? I don't do Twitter. It's like I tried to sort of get a Twitter account, and I basically messed up by putting one tweet, and I'm not sure how that happened. But since I started walking, I have 1,000 followers on Twitter, 1,500 on Facebook. How that's happened, I don't know. But they all find me at The Penny Rolls On. So my surname is Penny. And I just thought that would be quite a catchy title to come up with, and people love it. And it is so if you go on to anything, Just Giving, Instagram, Facebook, you can find links to my Facebook group, Just Giving page, how you can donate. And so far, I've already raised just over £22,000 in 2 weeks for Alzheimer's Research UK, and that's down to the fact that people donating are all because they've touched by Alzheimer's, and they know how the impact it has on families. It's a very good fund to donate to, and it's just the most wonderful thing I think I'm doing, and I'm really, really going to appreciate doing this walk for everybody. So The Penny Rolls On. It'd be lovely. Thank you.